This episode of I Am Salt Lake Podcast is proudly sponsored by Jed's Barbershop. With 3 locations, you have no reason to not always look your best. Go get a haircut, a beard trim, or even a straight razor shave. Jed's Barbershop is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 7, and Sunday, 12 to 5. Their newest location is located at 167 East, 900 South, right next to Randy's Records. They also have a location downtown at 212 South, 700 East, and up in Sugar House at 2153 East, 2100 South. No appointment is necessary. Just show up, get yourself a haircut. Maybe you have a last-minute date or a job interview. Jed's Barbershop is the place for you. Head on over to their website at jedsbarbershop.com for more information.
Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
I want to welcome everybody out today to episode 298 of I Am Salt Lake Podcast. My name's Chris Hollifield.
And I'm Chrissy Hollifield.
Today on the podcast, we sit down and chat with local Salt Lake City therapist, Jessie Shepard.
Man, I love this girl.
She has such a great story.
She does, and she does so much.
We're going to get into that. I mean, we're going to find out what got her interested in becoming a therapist, the book she wrote, the podcast she does, and then to top it off, being a mother.
Yeah.
It's seriously an amazing and inspirational story. We're going to get into all of that here in just a second. I do want to mention that yesterday is such a beautiful day.
Oh my gosh. Probably the last beautiful day of the year.
It really was. We wanted to get outside and enjoy some sunshine. So we thought, what a better day than to take Lucy her first farmer's market, our daughter Lucy.
Yeah, it was.
She's about a month old.
It's a great first.
We thought it would be a good idea.
We thought it would be a great idea. She's a little young.
You know, she didn't enjoy farmer's market as much as we do. But
she did not appreciate the vegetables as much.
It was great to show her off to some friends that we ran into, you know, some friends of ours that have booths down there at the downtown farmer's market.
Yeah.
There's a couple more of them left this year, so hopefully you can get on over there and check them out. The couple more Saturdays, 8 to 2 at Pioneer Park in downtown Salt Lake City. Hey, we all run into those events that we need a photographer. Maybe it's a family get-together, a work holiday party. If you're a comedian that needs headshots, or like Chrissy and myself, we were looking for a wedding photographer. We want to invite you to check out the photography of local photographer Amanda DeWolf. She took all of our wedding pictures, and I don't think I could be any happier with how they came out.
Oh gosh, me neither.
You could check out all of her work by going to her website, amandakmemories.com. That's where you can get in touch with her. Again, the website is amandakmemories.com. All right, let's jump into that conversation that we had with Jessie Shepard when she came over to our office to share her story. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. If you had less than 30 seconds to tell me about yourself, what would you say?
Oh my goodness.
Like if you say we just met at the bar and you were like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about.
So I'm a therapist. And I really care about promoting understanding of mental health. And so I do a lot of that stuff. I'm a mom. I worked in EMS for a long time.
For those of us unfamiliar, what's EMS?
Emergency medical systems. Is what I was in. Yeah.
So like an ambulance driver.
Yep. I was on the ambulance.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. In Salt Lake. So, and I just kind of mom it up and do therapy. That's kind of my whole thing.
And you do a podcast.
And I do a podcast
with Jackson.
Mr. Jackson Carter.
In which we'll get into all of that.
And you somehow find time to write blog articles.
And then I also work for
work full time.
And work full time. And then I do biggie. KSL and Fox 13 and
what do you do for KSL and Fox 13?
So KSL and Family Share, I write articles for them, and then for Fox 13, the place I do like segments like, you know, how to manage your kids better and stuff like that. So
how do you? We'll get into all this time management. And stuff like that. And then you have time to come and do podcasts, right? Like,
I love you guys. I really do.
Like, we love you.
Yeah. The first time I met you guys, it was really, Jackson's like, calm down. they're regular people. And I'm like, I don't think so. I've been listening to their podcast for forever.
So cute. I didn't know you even knew who we were. I was just like, that girl's adorable.
Well, didn't you I totally wasn't. I was like, okay, do I shake her hand? Like, this is
really?
This is Chrissy.
Oh,
this is Chrissy Jackson. Do you see that Chrissy's right here? I mean, I love you too, Chris. But I was like, yay.
No, I get it. That's why I had to bring her on the podcast as a co-host, because I'm like, she's got to relate with the female audience, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up here in Utah?
I did. I grew up in Kearns, West Valley. I went to Kearns High School, and yep.
You never moved away. Stayed here your whole life.
No, my parents still live in the same house I was born and raised, and yep, still in Kearns.
So growing up, like going to school and all of that as a kid, what did you want to be? Did you want to be a therapist growing up?
No. I wanted to be a veterinarian. But
I could totally see you doing that.
Yeah, I would love that. Huh. Except for now, I'm not a fan of like animal feces. And I know that vets deal a lot with that. So I don't want to.
That's kind of an interesting angle. I would think it would be more of the sick animal
or like
thing,
blood
right?
or pus. Ugh.
I don't mind. I mean, obviously I was on the ambulance. I don't mind like all of that stuff. But I think sick animals, it's hard because they're innocent creatures. And so that's kind of a rough piece there. But yeah, so I wanted to be a veterinarian. Education wasn't a big push in like my neighborhood and my family. It was just kind of like, go do what you want. And so I really never thought I'd go to college at all. I kind of figured I'd do a kind of a blue collar job until I met someone. I'm married and had babies, and that's what I figured life would kind of be like.
As most people in like females, no, don't take offense. In Utah,
that's true.
That's kind of what happens. They think I'm going to raise a family, stay at home.
Right.
If they go to college, it's for child development usually. I mean, like that is kind of the standard path.
So what?
Right.
Yes.
You went? Did you go to school in college?
Yeah. So what happened? So I was actually a ballerina right after high school.
Really?
Yeah. So I
did you dance growing up, or did you just magically?
Well, I danced through high school.
Okay.
And so I actually was able to get on point and all of that right out of high school, which is kind of the only, like, ballerinas have very short time frames in which they can dance and be on point and all of that.
I thought you were going to say life. Like,
I was waiting for lifespan.
I'm going to have arthritis forever. Yeah, it's going to be.
Usually die at 32.
It's like poor ballerinas. So I was doing that, and I had little side jobs here and there. And then my foot was actually run over. I don't know if I've ever had this conversation with somebody. My foot was run over by a forklift. And so it
Where at like a job?
Yeah.
Where were you working?
I was working at a boat shop in Salt Lake.
Okay.
And the forklift just swung around and it squished my ankle, and like my big toe blew off. Like it.
Oh my gosh!
Like popped right off. You could see the little bone.
Popped right off.
Yeah. It just boop. Yeah, and that ends your career really quick. Like you can't.
I mean, did you have to have surgery?
Oh yeah, multiple surgeries. And
so do you have a fake toe?
I don't have a fake toe. My toe is real.
Okay, so
folks.
it's a real toe. Yeah, I had a job, and I saw a coworker lose his foot from a forklift.
Yeah, it's no joke. Like it is.
I mean, you're lucky to still have your foot.
Right. And when we went into the ER, because my coworkers were trying to be nonchalant about it, like, oh, it's no big deal, whatever. And I'm like, well, my toe is hanging off because there's this little flap of skin that it was on.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I'm sorry.
This is
pregnant right now.
Just like, this is horrifying. But it's okay. Keep
I just
going.
want to make you go into labor right now. So we went into the ER, and my coworkers were trying to be nonchalant. I think it was because they didn't want. Like,
they didn't want you to panic or go into shock, probably.
Yeah, and you know, and I was actually pretty cool with that stuff. I was just like, wow, like all the adrenaline was going and everything. And then like everybody just left, and I was like, okay, well, what do we do? And I know that they were kind of figuring out surgery and everything, and my coworkers all left, and so luckily my mom came and like, okay, so this is what's going to happen, and they're going to sew your toe up, and by that time I had some really good pain meds, so it was.
Oh, good.
So you were loving life except for missing the toe.
Right. And then it was a whole piece of like, well, okay, so you're never going to dance again. And then, oh, could you do hip hop? Well, that takes, you know, and then, so it was a weird shift in life because life could have ended up a whole lot different for me at that point.
Right. It was a very blunt stop to where you were going.
Right. And really what I thought life was about. Like, I just wanted to dance and do, different companies and programs and all of that.
So how old were you approximately this time? I mean, 20s or
I was
teens?
19.
19.
I was
So 19, you're at that cusp where you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Boom, your big toe's gone.
Right. And I mean, the ankle, it's actually the one that I have the tattoo on now because it hides some of the scarring.
Oh, cute.
So that was kind of my way
tattoo.
of like, oh, thank you. But it was kind of my way of like reclaiming that because it was such a distressing time. So it was like, I'm going to put something pretty right there and we're going to fix it. And,
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah. Why not, right?
Yes.
So is
I
that
totally
when you
agree.
decided, like, at what did you do the EMS part first or the therapy? Like,
So-
what happened there?
Then I was like, well, what am I going to do with life?
Yeah.
And I was always kind of interested in the medical field. Like I thought about being a CNA and stuff like that. So I went and got my certification to be an EMT, and then started working.
Where do you have to go for that? Like college, or how do
Well,
you?
so a lot of the fire departments put on their own EMT school, and then I went through a particular one that was put together by the West Valley Fire Department.
What even got you interested to do that?
Well,
I mean, you just woke up one day and you're like,
Yeah.
well, that seems like a good job.
Well, I was always interested in medicine,
Sure.
and I actually took a phlebotomy school because I was going to do that on the side of like doing ballet and dance and stuff. So
They
I was like,
totally go together. So
right, it's the same thing, and because I always thought it was really interesting.
Wow.
And then there was, what was the TV show called? Like Rescue 911 or something, where they had like the EMS people. I know now that I look back, I'm like, that is not the depiction of the ambulance that, you actually experience. But it kind of got me interested in that process. And so I was like, well,
The TV show did.
yeah.
It's a good. Have you seen Rescue 911? Woo, is it?
I don't know.
What's the
Was it
blonde-haired guy?
Was it like one of those TLC shows?
No, it was
I don't
not
know,
a
but
TL.
they-
It was a. We're watching that next.
Oh, okay. Wait. What was it with the comedian guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
My
and they
mind
would
is
always-
blank.
yeah.
The old lady would always give him cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I've
never
such
seen
a
it.
good. Anyway,
it's
sorry.
not an accurate depiction at
It's
all.
gonna kill me that I can't remember his name.
But-
Someone's probably yelling at us right now.
I know. I don't know names of people when it comes.
Oh well.
Anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to
blonde.
get on
No,
a
no, no.
tangent
You're
about. It's just a
totally-
really good show.
Yeah.
You're totally good. So, so I started on an ambulance, and my foot was healed. I had to wear kind of a brace. They didn't really know that when they hired me that I probably wasn't going to be the best lifter because that's part of it. It's a lot of heavy lifting of moving people. Essentially, is
Yeah.
what the ambulance is. And so, so I worked really hard. Like my first shift, I had bruises up and down my thighs because I would put the stretcher on my thighs to kind of like move it up to get it because I was a 19-year-old ballerina girl. So my legs were really strong, but my arms weren't because that was not the parts we were working out
Right.
necessarily. So I mean, it was a lot of fun. The ambulance was awesome. I spent about 7 years doing that and down in Salt Lake, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow. So then what made you like transition from that type of people helping to mental people helping? Like what was the switch?
So about 3 years in, I met my husband. He was on the fire truck at the time. He was a truckie. And
Okay, random question.
yes.
I saw that he was in a commercial. Because
he's in a
may or
commercial,
may
though.
not have stalked you a little
Good,
bit
you
online.
should.
But I was like, is he actually a fireman or is he an actor?
Yeah, so he's a fireman for Salt Lake City.
That's awesome.
And Primary Children's does a lot of commercials and stuff, so they'll use the firemen in their commercials.
So they actually have a hot fireman. It's like it's like
Isn't he handsome? Isn't his face handsome?
I thought they were all actors. Okay, just a tangent. Continue.
Go see the commercial. They all look adorable.
Do you want to start our house on fire now, just so he will come over?
But you can dress up in a fireman costume anytime.
All right,
Yeah.
there you
All
go.
right.
Do it. Do it.
Anyway.
It's fun. So I actually did not like my husband at all when I met him.
Does he know this?
He does know that.
Okay, so this isn't the first time.
No, so yeah, he's not going to find out on this podcast. So it was like Sunday morning, and it was totally this BS call where it was like a fender bender, and everybody's like pretending their necks are broken, and you're like, when you've been on the ambulance long enough, you know when people are actually hurt and when they're just faking it. And so, but just in case, we were getting the kid on the backboard. He was he was in his early 20s, and he was super tall, so he was like hanging off the backboard. And my partner was awesome, and she was like, that fireman's really cute. You should go ask him out. I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want to, because I was really cranky that particular morning. And so I went to go to get the kid. He was on the backboard. He was strapped on, and we were going to move him to the stretcher. And my husband, who was just a fireman at the time, came up and he grabbed my belt and he tried to like help me lift or something.
By your belt?
Well, and firemen would do this. Like if you're going down the stairs backwards, like they'd hold your belt and tell you how many stairs you had and stuff like that, which is fine, whatever. But he did this to help me lift. And I was like, excuse me, like, get off.
Well, men are awkward, too. When we like a girl, we don't know the best
what
ways.
What can I grab without getting in trouble?
Yeah, maybe that was the version of pulling hair, right? When the kindergarten and the playground.
I don't know, but I was not having it. And so I was livid. And
sure.
So I get this kid in the back of my ambulance, and I'm riding in the box, and my partner's the driver that day. And so I am just rude to him on scene. Like he's doing the report to the hospital, and I was just kind of like giving him dirty looks and just being rude and like, give me the report. I need to go. Like, come on, man. Like this is. So I get in the back and I'm doing my report, and his captain comes up, Captain Key, and he like goes in our side door and he's like, you need to call the station when you're done. And I was like, oh crap. Like, okay, so I was just rude, and I know it's Sunday morning, and I shouldn't be rude, because it's the beginning of a shift, and, now I'm in huge trouble, because the fire department really watches over the ambulance, and, I didn't want my supervisor to find out that I was really rude to, their firemen. So anyway, I get to the hospital. I'm totally delaying this phone call because I don't want to do it. And my partner's like, well, just get it over with, and then we'll go get coffee or something. It was like our big. If we go on a bad call, you go get a treat to like
counterbalance the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'd be like, you know what? But we had coffee, so it's pretty good.
Cleanser coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I call the station, and he's like, well, you guys have to go on a date now. And I was like, BS, we do. I don't want to go on a date with this jerkwad, and he's like, yeah, you guys have to learn how to get along on scene, so you're going to go on a date.
Oh, no. So it was almost like you got in trouble.
Yeah. It was like a weird consequence. I'm like, later talking to him, he's like, no, we just knew. Like, you guys need to be together. But he's like, we just need to figure out some way to, like, get you guys to stop being jerks to each other and realize that you really liked each other. And I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. But, and then the first date was absolutely horrible. Just stupid, horrible. Like, my husband doesn't know how to plan things. And so, like,
most guys don't.
I know, but I mean, he was in that dating age. Like, he could even like fall back on like dinner movie.
He should. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Right?
Like he couldn't even get the basics down.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like he picked me up. He wasn't really late. He was kind of late. He made it sound
so great.
It was terrible.
No, I love it.
So he was training for a triathlon. And of course he had to tell me all about it because he's such a hot fireman training for a triathlon. He's so amazing. I was like, oh, come on. Like, so I was not impressed with him at all. And then, so he's late. And then he picks me up and every place is closed. And because it was Sunday in Salt Lake, nothing's open. And so he takes me to the gas station to get a blue slushie. And that is our date. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. I'm never going to see you again. So thanks for this
Thanks for
stupid
the
date.
blue slushie. Was it good? Was it a good blue slushie?
No, it wasn't. It was like one of those like aftermarket ones that are not the delicious kind. They're not even fluffy. Like, so I was not into
Was this
it.
in the middle of winter too, right? A slushie in the middle of winter. In the middle of winter.
That would have made it so much worse. That would have been at least it was summertime.
Yeah.
At least it was summertime. And then, so he said, okay, well, let's go to this park because there's the park that looks over the valley. I forget what it's named. Anyway, so
Ensign Peak, was it the one up behind the Capitol there?
Not the one by the Capitol. It's the one off of 33rd. If you go kind of in the back neighborhood,
It doesn't matter.
yeah, it doesn't really matter. But anyway, so he took me to this park, and so we're sitting there just kind of BSing and stuff, and I think he knew that he really botched the date because then he was like, "Well, okay, so like, what do I do here?" And we happened to be in like there was a group of teenage kids like smoking weed and whatever just down the way. And so I'm like, this has got to be the worst day of my entire life. This is so dumb. Like I wasted so many hours on this. Like, what am I doing? And then no joke, like 3 security guard squad cars like pull up to kick out these teenagers, and they think we're part of the group. And so it was this big like 3rd degree thing. And anyway, so it was kind of funny.
So you ended up in jail.
We didn't go to jail, but it was this big like, what are you guys doing? And he's like, no, I'm a fireman for Salt Lake City. We're just happen to be in the same park. It was, yeah. So it was kind of funny that it was so miserable, because we kind of laughed in the car, and I was like, all right, you can make it up to me with another date. And then we just took off.
Kept dating.
We just kept dating and ended up having a whole mess of babies. And
How many kids do you have?
3.
3 kids. Well, that's not that bad.
Just enough to break you.
Yeah, just enough.
2 is about where my span of control is, and then 3 just like broke me. That's it.
And I think that's pretty typical.
Well, we got 4.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be that much worse.
Yeah. Well, I have no idea. All I had was a cat.
I know.
Jeez.
Cats are easy compared to what's about to hit you right now.
Thanks for scaring me.
Sorry, no, you'll be fine. You're gonna do so good. The love is there. And that's
so the therapy. When did that? You decided
So-
you're like, I don't want to be an ambulance person anymore. I want to be a therapist. I just want to sit on couches and have the easy
That's
life.
what I do. I just sit on couches and drink coffee. No, so
Tell me about your life.
Tell me, how does that make you feel? I actually went to school to be a nurse, and I didn't want to do that. I decided like halfway through. So then I had to spend a whole bunch more money to transfer degrees. Went and got my psychology degree, and then licensed, and I mean.
Now you have your own practice now? Is that kind of what you?
Yeah. So Blue Clover Therapy. We're up in Cottonwood Heights, and I mean it's gone really well. I've worked lots of different places, residential treatment, and the state hospital, and in-home.
It just doesn't seem like you've had enough time in life to accomplish everything that you're telling us about.
Yeah, for real. Like when did the kids come along, and when did? Jeez.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I don't know if it's awesome, maybe crazy, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just kind of snuck up on me, and now we're here. We have 3 kids, so
like what kind of people would come to your practice? Like what kind of people do you see? Like do you specialize in something, or would say Chrissy and myself come to you? Like who comes to you?
So we take anybody that wants to come in. I mean, obviously, like anxiety and depression are typical things that come in just because they span everything. Like any disorder that you're dealing with, you're going to have anxiety and depression. But I really like trauma, like PTSD and all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite.
Is that your favorite? I really liked it on the ambulance. I really understood that piece of it. And so bringing it into the brain and how the brain actually fractures and how PTSD actually develops was really interesting to me. And so that's where I kind of started. It was in trauma. And then as I kind of got going, I realized that the Salt Lake Valley really doesn't have a therapist that works with eating disorders in small children. And unfortunately, eating disorders are really starting to develop like 5-6 years old.
Really?
Yeah, it's really distressing.
Like what would be a sign of an eating disorder in a 5-year-old?
Well, body image issues. Oftentimes with the little ones, you see more restrictive type food behaviors, like, oh, I can't eat that. That'll make me fat. Or eating things that are not edible. So like couch cushions carpet.
I saw that in a TV show. What was that show? What was that? There's like a TV show where they eat weird things like paint from the
strange addiction.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating show.
Yeah, I can't watch it. I can't watch any of those shows.
Why can't you watch it?
Because it's work.
Seems like it'd be
work.
Ah, okay.
So
I'm curious about that. How you separate?
Yeah, I don't. Watch
why do you think kids get like eating disorders like that? What is it? Just because of their parents, or is it
parents' fault? No.
No. I mean, is it home life, school? I guess it's everything.
Is there a main trigger?
I mean, it's hard to say, I guess.
I mean, it kind of depends on. It can start with personality. Like if you get kind of OCD type behaviors, you'll see more of trying to regulate self in different ways and modify self in different ways. But trauma is a big piece of that. If they've had any type of emotional, sexual, or physical abuse, it's a way of controlling, because you can control your body and you can control what you intake and what you put out to a certain extent. And so when you're like, no, if I can feel that hunger, I know I'm alive. That's one of those things that comes up sometimes.
Gosh, I wish I want to feel alive here.
I want to feel alive.
Make me feel alive.
Yeah.
But you gotta think, if you're numb and if you're scared all the time, you want to know that you're still here. And that's kind of where cutting comes in. I work with a lot of folks who also cut or self-damage.
How do you keep your spirits up? I mean, don't you ever just get so depressed yourself?
Well, there's times that are really frustrating.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially when you think you're going in a really good direction and then something changes, or oftentimes it's like their environment or their parent situation shifts and someone's not following through with something, and you're like,
that's probably a huge problem.
yeah, just like please do what I ask you to do, and then nobody does it, and it's this whole thing. But well, I'm in a position to help them, and I have a lot of training specific to those things, and so I just a lot of times will review the treatment plan again and be like, okay, so here's our goals. This is what we're going for. This is how we get there, and it's comforting and kind of knowing the steps of what we need to do. And then I do a lot of, I deal with a lot of sexual abuse as well. And so that really is upsetting to me. Like, cause I have babies and I can't imagine people doing that to small children or people in general. And so that can be really distressing. So, this might sound weird, but I'll go in and wash my hands really well. Cause it's almost like a cleansing, cause I can't like take a shower at my work, but just like kind of cleaning my hands, taking a deep breath, and reminding myself that I'm in that position to help. And if I'm not there, and am like really passionate about helping them, I don't know if they would find that or be able to go back in to somebody else.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it's just reminding yourself over and over of why you're there and why it's important that you have a clear plan of attack.
Yeah.
Let's actually take a quick break. We need to play a message from our sponsor real fast, and then we'll be right back with a bunch more questions. So hang tight. This episode of I Am Salt Lake Podcast is proudly sponsored by Jed's Barbershop. With 3 locations, you have no reason to not always look your best. Go get a haircut, a beard trim, or even a straight razor shave. Jed's Barbershop is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 7, and Sunday, 12 to 5. Their newest location is located at 167 East, 900 South, right next to Randy's Records. They also have a location downtown at 212 South, 700 East, and up in Sugar House at 2153 East, 2100 South. No appointment is necessary. Just show up, get yourself a haircut. Maybe you have a last-minute date or a job interview. Jed's Barbershop is the place for you. Head on over to their website at jedsbarbershop.com for more information. So this might be a weird question. I was thinking about it while we were talking. You know how a lot of jobs, right? Like the economy goes up and down and they're hurting for business and they're not busy. Is it that way with you? Like as a therapist, do you have ups and downs, or are you pretty busy all the time?
Well, so it's been interesting because places that I've worked have ups and downs and kind of all of that. Blue Clover is interesting. I think we kind of have an interesting niche. So we really haven't dipped at all. It's kind of just been like increase or plateau, which is good. I mean, it's good business-wise. But usually people are pretty good between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Usually not right before Thanksgiving because everybody's anticipating like dealing with their families. Yeah. And so like coming up with like coping skills and all of that to deal with that. But Christmas is usually pretty busy. People are just trying to get through the holidays and all of that. We get hit really hard January, February, March just because it's
when reality hits everybody again.
Right. And all of a sudden all your bills come in that you spent all this money on Christmas. And I mean, it's really, it can be those dark months. Summer kind of lightens up a little bit. A lot of people go on vacations. kind of, they're a little more spotty. Like I'll have like every other type of appointments, that kind of thing. And then right before school starts, usually I'm just completely slammed. Like
really
right now,
with kids mostly? Or?
Yeah, just people trying to like brace themselves because they knew like last year was really bad, or they knew that there was a trigger going on, or that kind of thing. So trying to prep for that. Like right now, because school's starting right now. I'm booked out for about 2 months. Like,
Really?
and that's just how.
That's good for you, I guess.
It is good. It's a lot of it. I mean, a lot of the appointments are just prepping appointments, so it's not having to deal with like these big issues on a long-term basis. It's more of like, okay, do you remember your safety plan? Do you remember your coping plan? And reviewing those things. But it should lighten up or plateau for us about October, and then
wow,
kind of
that's so
wild that
fascinating.
way.
Do you find that a lot of people, the whole depression thing, right? Like, oh, just, snap out of it. That whole, I don't know how to describe it, but I've even, because I still can suffer with depression. And people don't,
It's easily
just
blown,
go for a walk and no big deal. Do you find people are more sympathetic these days versus, say, 10 years ago? Or is it just kind of the way, a lot more people are familiar with mental illness.
Yes. And that's what's nice about this day and age is people are, there's the suicide prevention walks, and there's, they talk about symptoms more often, and it's better known. But if you get in these niche groups and they're still very harsh on mental health, like military is a big one. They're getting a little better, I would say. The fire department actually is.
Anything with
like
men. I find men try to be so macho.
Men are stoic.
They don't like to admit when they have a problem.
Yeah,
I would say.
I hate
for the
that.
most part.
Men will come in to see us usually if there's some other symptom. It won't be like, I'm really depressed, I can't get out of bed, I don't have any energy. Those things I don't hear as much from men. I will, but not as much. Usually it's like, I'm fighting with my spouse all the time and she wants me to come in now. Or I cannot handle my kids. Like, I cannot stand my children. Or I just lock myself away in the basement when I get home. I don't interact with anybody. Things
And you
like
have to
that.
be the bad guy that's like, look, dude, you have depression.
Like, sorry, but this is...
Show him the movie Inside Out and be like, see this character? That's
important.
you.
Yeah, he's important though. Well, and that's the thing is and then having that understanding, and then understanding the stigma behind it, where they don't want to tell their buddies what's going on. Like, specifically, I chose my office because there are multiple exits. I deal a lot with PTSD, depression, and I want people to have multiple exits, and exits where people won't see them leave. That's a big piece of that, because people don't want to run into their friend, because it's a small world, and go like, oh yeah, you're seeing Jessie too? Great. And have that weird, awkward, like eye contact. What do I do with my hands? Kind of thing. And so I picked my office specifically because they can go down the stairs. They can go down a separate elevator. There's multiple options for them.
Do you tell them this, or do they just kind of figure it out?
Nope. I tell them. I also deal a lot with some high profile clients, and it's the same thing. Like they're bodyguards or whatever, posse, whatever you want to call them.
Wow, you get bodyguards.
Not me.
Well,
They're not saving me from anything.
Yeah.
But they'll stand at the stairs or whatever and just kind of take them out that way and make sure they don't go through the front. And
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's nice that you consider your clients' emotions to that extent, because I've been to multiple therapists, and I've taken my kids to multiple therapists, and I don't think I've ever been to one that really is that considerate. As weird as that sounds,
Didn't you say you took your kids to a therapist, and then the therapist meets with the kids and then comes and tells you everything?
She was, man, I've had some weird.
Like, what is with some therapists and non-confidentiality?
Well, no, they do. They say they're not going to tell you anything, but then they treat the kids really weird, and you're not exactly sure what happened, and the kids are like, I never want to go back there.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. So a lot of people will talk about the client or the kiddo with, like, to the parents with the kid in the room, acting as if they're not in the room.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And then the kid's just like, what the hell?
And I know and I know, like, sometimes the kid's coloring, maybe they're playing with blocks, but kids hear everything.
Oh, yes.
Everything.
Yes,
and they
do.
note it in their little head. And then all of a sudden you're like, tell me how that makes you feel or whatever. And they're like, yeah, F you, lady. Like, no, that is such the thing. Okay. The thing with therapy is it's amazing that there's so much research going on, and lots of different modalities are out there. The problem with therapy is that it's kind of the Wild West, where people can kind of mush modalities together. They don't necessarily have to use therapy modalities that are researched, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, because if there's no research, there's no proof that it works.
Right.
And I'm not saying to like, here's your cookie cutter treatment plan kind of thing, but you should use things and only things that have been seen and proven to work. You know, you get, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody or anything like that, but if you're coming in and you're just Wild Westing this whole therapy thing,
you might as well be one of the parents bringing the kid in.
Right. Right. And just building rapport and having them be your buddy. And it's like, no, it's way more complicated than that. And and you should know what you're doing as you're going and what your goal is with something. Like because I've been to court and they're like, well, in this video, all you did was play with the kid. And I'm like, well, listen to the audio first off, because yes, I do play with kids. I have the sand and I have the toys and I have the games.
You have to build trust and like connect with them.
Right. And the best way to get into someone's head is to have them busy doing something else as you're talking to them. Because then they're doing their own thing. You're doing something together. Like we'll do art projects together because we're a team at that point, and they can talk to me about those different things. And so it's a delicate process that I think that some people don't take seriously, or like, well, because we're told in grad school, like, what is it? 40% of positive change is built on rapport. Which, sure, you need a good rapport, but you need to have that mechanism of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Reasoning behind it is super important.
So important, you know? And so, like, so you need to tell parents if they're going to hurt themselves or somebody else, and if there's some sort of thing we're worried about. So, like, if they're cutting, like, we want to know that as parents, right? We want to know what's going on there. The way that the approach I take is I'm very straightforward, kind of blunt. I don't say things to be mean. I never say things to be mean because there's no reason. But I will be completely straightforward because people come to therapy. It's expensive and time consuming. And so you want it to work. Right.
You want it to be worthwhile for sure.
Right. And so the things that I'm going to tell you are things that might seem kind of blunt, but they're going to move you in the right direction. And if you are offended, I want you to tell me, because that builds a relationship there. Because we've had conflict, we repair it, we move on, right? And if they're doing something, like if they are actively suicidal or cutting or binge and purge or whatever's going on, I talk to the client and have the client tell the parent with me in the room. So everybody's held accountable.
That's a really cool way to do that.
Because it's empowering to them, because they get to share their secret. They get to share what's going on. And it opens up line of communication with the parent. I mean, it does so many things that they get scared to put everybody in the room and say, like, honesty time, you know?
Yeah.
But right there shows, I mean, it can create some conflict, of course, but then I kind of mediate that piece, and hopefully by the end we have a good communication from there on out.
Wow.
So.
And how long have you been doing this?
Oh my goodness. Let's see.
5 years?
So you have a preliminary type licensure beforehand, and that was for 3 years. 3 years that I did that. And then I've had my license for, 3 years now.
So
you're just kind of naturally gifted.
Doing this now versus when you decided to get into it, is it everything you imagined?
It's actually nothing what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of had that movie idea of, like, you sit on a couch and you tell people how they're feeling, or, you know,
and everything's going to wrap up in 30 minutes and everyone will be happy.
And we're good and everybody's good. And, you know, and that question of how does that make you feel? I thought that was like the main, like, power question I needed. And then that's it. And I'm good.
See, and I must have been horrible. I've been to therapists and they're horrible. Like, I just don't feel.
There's some
they just piss me off.
Yeah. It's like, why am I even here?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't care.
Like, you're not doing anything. You just keep asking me questions and I'm just running. It's like I could be talking in my head right now.
Right.
For all like,
I'm already doing this in my head, so I don't need you to bounce this off of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to a marriage therapist once, right before we got pregnant with our first little one, and he gave us a tennis ball to take home, and because we talk over each other, because we're both like alpha people, and we both want to say our piece. At least we did then. Now our fires died a little bit because the children and life. And,
they'll kill your spirit.
Yeah, we still love each other, but so we have our. It's honesty hour. So he gave us a tennis ball And the only person who could talk was the one with the tennis ball. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing. But we took it. I'm like, okay, we're going to just embrace this piece. And we ended up just like chucking it at each other, like, listen to me. And I'm like,
Yeah, that seems like.
I was like,
and then he probably charged you like $300 for the tennis ball.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Supplies cost.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And
Sorry, I don't mean to be bashing therapy.
No.
I that sounds like I'm being really derogatory.
No,
But
no, you're really not, because
okay.
there's some really terrible therapists out there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I have to interview people. Not that if you interviewed with me and I didn't hire you, you weren't great. But I'm just putting that out there. I'm just saying. But some people, like, I ask very basic questions like, have you ever worked with a suicidal client? Mm-hmm. That is a very basic question. If you've worked in therapy, you've worked with a suicidal client. Whether you know it or not, or whether they call it suicide or, you know, that kind of thing, you absolutely have, because essentially it's hopelessness and not knowing what to do and, you know, all of that. And so some people have said, no, I've never worked with a suicidal client. I'm like, okay.
So you're kind of gauging their skills on picking up things.
Yeah, just because, I mean, that's a relatively basic thing, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know. And because I have PTSD, and so I have to deal with that stuff. And I've been to a lot of therapists as well. And oh my goodness,
You have to find the right fit.
you have to really like the person and like respond to what their modalities are and what they're trying to do. And then you have to, a therapist's their big chore, I guess, is to continually give you hope when things are rough, because they're not in the trenches with you. They're not there every
Right.
hour on the hour. They're 1 or 2 hours a week telling you, you know, giving you homework or doing, you know, whatever. And so you need to have that hope. Well, it's like, well, you know, my therapist said it's going to be rough, but I can get through this, or
Yeah.
I can do this or that. So
What would you tell somebody that say they were listening and they wanted to be a therapist? Is there like a piece of advice or something you would tell them?
yes, go to a therapist.
Go to a therapist.
Every therapist should have a therapist. And I strongly believe in that. Because first off, you need to know your own issues. And you have to know what you're going to have some transference with. Like I have a really difficult time working with pedophiles. And I learned that really early on. I cannot. Like it's too much for me.
Yeah.
I would just become Dexter.
Yes.
Like,
Well, but that's the thing is, like, some people really work well with that population. That's not my population. I also have a difficult time with narcissism, kind of, you know, like, because there's no, like, I don't know. I just can't get around that quick. Like, it's just like, okay, I have a great therapist for you. You got to go with this therapist, not me. But go to a therapist, figure out what's going on, figure out what transference you'll have, and then figure out what modalities you want to go into and kind of get a rough idea of who you want to work with, what you want to do. And it has to come from your soul that you want to help people. It can't be like a business endeavor. And like, I opened my own practice and it's great and I love it and all of that. But if I would have gone into this business thinking that that's what I was going to do, it would have failed for sure. So
there has to be heart behind it.
yeah.
So you've taken this whole skill and you really have branched out. I mean, you go and you talk to Fox 13. You have a really great blog. I'm really enjoying
did you
reading
like it?
Oh yeah, I love it, especially the
What
Ninja
is
Turtles
we'll
post.
put, was it JessieTheTherapist.com?
JessieTheTherapist.com.
.com.
Yeah, and we'll put that link up
Yeah,
with the show
great.
notes. For
I mean,
this
I recommend
podcast, too,
it's
yeah.
Oh, you guys are sweet.
It really is awesome. It's helping me understand my kids better, really.
Oh, good.
And then you started a podcast,
Yeah, let's
Yes.
talk about the podcast. I
Yes.
love podcasts.
which is really the first time I saw you live. The first time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! This is
We
like
were
this is
so
such a great
nervous.
podcast." Oh, you did fantastic.
Oh, were we okay? Oh. Jackson and I hadn't really been doing the podcast very long at that point, like the live show. And it's funny because I had only met Jackson once before we started doing the podcast. And it was at like this food collections thing around Thanksgiving. And we just totally clicked. Like, we were joking around and all of that. And then he called me up February, I think it was February, January. He's like, let's go have coffee and talk about a podcast. And I'm like, yay. But to me, a podcast, because like I had listened to podcasts like you guys, and it was this really foreign thing. Because I've done radio shows and done like the advice shows and the TV and stuff like that. But to to like sit around a table and like talk to people for a long period of time about stuff was kind of like, oh,
You used to being like the specialist that comes in for a few minutes.
yeah, like 5 minutes max.
Yeah.
And like, here's my research that I talked about, and then now I'm out, and this is how you get a hold of me, and that's it. Whereas, podcasts, you go in depth and you really get to know people's personalities. And I was like, what if I am weird or people don't,
What made him even ask you, though, to do a podcast? What gave you, like, what insinuation did you give him, though, that he would even think to ask you?
Well, so I'd been doing He Said, She Said with the mix.
Oh, yeah,
Lexi
with my
Biggs.
friend Clark.
Yes,
I love
yeah.
Clark.
Oh my gosh, Clark is a character.
He
I
is.
want to have him on our podcast. I don't know what to talk to him about yet, but
You could
he'll
just
come
like
in and
turn on
BS,
the mic,
yeah.
man.
And just it's all gold. Is what
It is.
Clark, you're amazing. So I'd been doing that show, and I don't know why he called me. Did you say on his?
No, I can't even remember now.
He didn't. It didn't come up.
Yeah,
but
we'll
he must have
match
just
the
noticed
two
the
up.
spark in you. I mean,
yeah.
Well, and Jackson's a genuine person.
oh, he is.
Like
yeah.
he is just a down to earth, genuine, straightforward person. And I talk to a lot of people, just lots of different types of people, and it's hard to find those people out there. And when you do, you keep them really close because you know that they'll be straightforward with you and like tell you if you have a booger or something. Like that's what you want in a friend, is like someone who's there and will tell you what's going on.
Did you hear that, Chrissy?
Oh, I should tell you when you have boogers?
I'm just kidding.
Tell me.
Why
I
is
have a
everybody
booger.
looking?
It's like, what's going on? Why
Yeah.
are you touching your nose? Doesn't mean I need to touch my nose. Like, what's happening? But I actually wrote a book series called the What Mental Health Disorder book series.
Wait, so you got a book, too?
It's a series.
Like
So
a published book?
Yeah.
she
so
really
it's-
doesn't sleep. I
don't.
kind of believe
I
you
don't.
that you really actually don't sleep.
I'm kind of a robot. But
Can you get these on like Amazon?
yeah,
or-
so Amazon, Barnes & Noble, there are a couple of bookshops around town and stuff. Like the first one in the series is Millie the cat has borderline personality disorder. Because do you guys know what borderline personality disorder is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you
Very
have, Chrissy.
familiar.
Yeah,
That's what I have. Duh.
Well, so so people generally do not like therapists. It's like a bad word in the therapy world, where it's like, well, they're never going to get helped, and that's not accurate. And I really, really, really hated that because I was running a borderline personality group, and it was like it was doom and gloom. It was really bad. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create this book to just explain there are negative parts, but there's also positive parts, and I want to highlight those things. And so that's kind of where the book series came from. And so Jackson, he said he really liked the books, and so I'm like, cool. And so we started coming up with so Jackson and I play very well off of each other because he is like, entertaining and like, what is the word?
He knows how to riff really well.
He does. He's really intelligent, so he can come up with all these different things and kind of impulsive, I guess would be the word where he can make it really entertaining.
Yeah.
And I am not that so much. That's why this podcast was like, oh my gosh, what are they going to ask me?
Well, you're very intelligent
You're
and
doing great,
well-spoken.
by the way.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Because I normally have kind of a script. Like I don't follow it word for word, but I like, okay, so we're going to talk about, this research and that research and, best practices and whatnot. And so together it works really well, where I have the outline that kind of keeps us on track, and he, does the entertaining parts and the
Do you guys ever find each other, like, you love each other, you work well, you have a great dynamic, but do you ever get frustrated with each other where he's like, lighten up a little bit, and you're like, no, more structure? And you kind of have to like find that balance?
Yes. So he will not respond to my emails. And so what I do, because I am passive aggressive in this way, I'll just keep sending emails being like, did you get this email? I need you to respond. Like scheduling. I like to be a month in advance.
You're very organized.
I'm very
That's a good
organized.
thing.
And because I'm booked out about 2 months out, I need to know what's going to happen for the next month
Well, sure.
or so.
I'm the same way.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, see?
Yes.
Oh,
I understand now.
yes. It's important.
I'm
But-
more like Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. You're the Jackson. Chris, you're me. I love it. So it's frustrating that way. And then he's like, I don't know my schedule. Like, but the nice thing about Jackson and I, we don't do anything in a malicious way, or it's more like, hey, my anxiety is rising. I need you to respond to this so I know what's going on. Or
Yeah.
back off, woman. I don't know what my schedule is. I won't know till next week. And so it's like, okay, all right. And it's been a learning experience because I am not like on the fly coming up with stuff. Like I just don't have that capability necessarily. Emergency situations on it. But like if you're like, go talk on a podcast about something, I'm like, yeah. And so like it's nice having him there as like almost like a security. Being like, he'll figure this out for me, you know.
Have we even mentioned the name of the podcast?
Oh yeah, let's say the name.
Yes.
Get Yourself Together.
Yes, Get Yourself Together podcast.
Who came up with the name?
So Jackson had a list, which is cute because I think it's the only time I've ever seen him have a list of anything. But he had, I love him, but he doesn't make lists like I do. And he had all of these names. And we thought the Get Yourself Together was really funny. I mean, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning over coffee, so I
think it's very clever.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it.
And that's the thing is we wanted a mental health podcast that wasn't super duper serious, but also got the facts out there so people understood what's going on and takes away some of that stigma, but it's not like doom and gloom and sad. And
you're busy though. What are you hoping to accomplish by doing a podcast? Just something fun? Or are you hoping to maybe get some new clients with it?
No, I learned very early on that TV and radio and podcasts actually don't bring me any clients. What we're trying to do, and so we talked to a lot of different podcasters in the area, and especially I was really nervous about it. I didn't know quite. Like I Googled it.
You had to get familiar with the whole thing.
Yeah, because I'm like, what are we supposed to be doing? And it's the Wild West. Like if we're talking Wild West, like there's people who are extremely serious about it and organized, and then there's people who are not at all. Mm-hmm. And I told him very early on that I wasn't going to do this just for fun because I have other things I can do for fun. We really, really believe that with understanding, people can really get the help that they need with mental health. They don't need to stay locked away, and they don't need to pretend they don't have the things that they do, or they don't have to cope in bad ways just to get through life. That there is a better life out there. There is better ways to cope with things, and we all need it.
Sure.
You know, there's not a single person who is like, yeah, my life's great and my mental health is awesome and I never have a bad day.
And if you think that, you really have problems.
You really need a therapist, so please go find a therapist. But because you're not alone. Like no one's alone, and
but so often we feel like we are.
Right.
I mean, I know
I think you
there.
always feel like you're alone when you're going through it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so nice that you're bringing more awareness to it. With the amount that you get out and you put yourself out there on different platforms, I think is so healthy. It's so great for people. You're doing such a good service for everyone else around who gets to hear from you. Because it means so much to those of us who do have mental health issues.
And you said you're not going to get any clients. I guarantee you're going to get a client or two from I Am Salt Lake. They're going to come and sit on your couch and they'll be, by the way, I heard you on I Am Salt.
Well, I guarantee you're probably going to see my kids at some point.
I would love that. We can do some good work.
I think everybody could benefit from therapy.
Oh, absolutely.
I really, does most insurance, does our insurance, would she cover our insurance?
You take Regis Blue Cross Blue Shield?
We do. We're panel.
See?
There you go.
Hey.
And we're up for Select Health, so I'm hoping let's all cross our fingers that way because nobody gets on their panel. So
it is that is a tougher one to get on.
I think everybody could benefit.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is the nice thing with our office. If you let's say you don't have insurance or something's going on or you don't want to go through your insurance because you don't want the diagnosis on your insurance. Like I get a lot of that with military fires.
Interesting.
They don't want the diagnosis tagged to their name. We will work with you. Like we will figure out a way for you to get therapy, whether it's with us and we do, reduced rates and stuff like that, or with somebody else that we feel is a trusted person in the therapeutic community. Because I am very, very, passionate about making sure that everybody gets the help they need. If they have spent that time to reach out, even if it's just a little email or like a, little Facebook blurb or whatever, that might have taken so much strength.
Yeah. They've probably thought about it for a while.
Right. And so you don't pretend that wasn't important or be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like you don't forget about people. You don't not call them back. That's another thing with a lot of therapy offices. They don't call you back. Mm-hmm. No, you call them back. Even if like I'm booked out. I have other therapists that can take people, but I'm booked out. I cannot take another client at this time. I will sit with you on the phone and we will chat and we will figure this out because you're not alone. You can get the help that you need and weird or odd or any of that. This is the human condition.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let's change gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about Salt Lake City. Well, we got to talk Salt Lake City before we wrap this up and completely shut this episode down. If somebody was visiting Salt Lake City for this upcoming weekend, what would you tell them to do or check out? Building or activity or?
Oh, hiking.
Hiking.
I
love it.
There's so much hiking in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah.
That it's just fun. And you can do it. Like I take my little monsters up there and
do you have a favorite hiking
just
trail?
get their energy out of them, right?
Right. I like Silver Lake because you can take like a lunch and walk around the lake there, which is kind of nice. And it's not like you can even take a stroller. I remember being pregnant with my little toddler and walking around that lake praying I get going to labor. Like I was like in high heels and I just eaten a giant burrito and I was just like, please.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, you're in high heels
So you
on
enjoy
a hike.
torture. Also.
Well, it's like a what would that be? Like a
Asphalt.
like a trail.
Yeah, it's a trail, but it's like a boardwalk.
Okay.
It's like a little
okay.
boardwalk around it, and then there's like dirt. But I really wanted to go into labor, like
Sounds
really.
like
So
it.
like I feel your
Hey, you're
pain.
one to talk here, Chris.
No, it's true. I've been like trying to eat raw pineapple and stuff. So let's
Yeah.
do this.
Raw pineapple put you in labor?
It's an old wives' tale. I don't know
All
if
of
it
it's
actually
kind of
works.
a
It's all phony.
yeah.
Anyway,
like
sorry,
high heels
we-
really isn't. It's not going to do anything, but
But it makes you
psychologically,
feel
it
like
doesn't-
you're doing something.
Yeah, like that you're an active because basically you're just waiting for your body to do something, and that is the worst.
you
Like
have to keep your brain busy.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like if you're like, oh, I wonder if I eat like really spicy peppers and I go on a hike
Get
with my
some ghost
toddler.
peppers and see how that goes.
See what happens. Yeah, that's probably too much information. but
Sorry.
that's-
What about favorite local eating spots? Do you have any places that you
Ooh.
like to stuff your mouth?
Blue Plate.
Okay. They got good pancakes
Yeah.
and bacon and
Yeah, they do.
And it's kind of a quaint little place, so that's kind of nice too. Squatters is really good.
Squatters, yeah.
Squatters is always delicious. It's never a bad day there. Yeah. I don't get out very
no,
much.
no, I like it. Couple
places to
good
go when you get out.
recommendations.
Yeah.
If people listening wanted to find out more about you, reach out to you, let's run down website, phone numbers, contact, whatever you want to give out. I don't know
Preferred
what
contact
you. Yeah,
methods.
preferred contact.
It's probably easiest if you go to jessiethetherapist.com because it has all of them. It's kind of the hub of all that. You can go to my practice, which is Blue Clover Therapy, talks about the books, and it's the blog, and then Get Yourself Together's on there as well. So it's kind of the hub of everything.
Awesome.
So I'll
And
put
we'll share
that.
all
I'll put
those.
that link. Yeah, and I'll put all the links.
I'm
at
sorry
I
to
Am
have so
Salt
many
Lake.
links. That's
Yeah,
really
no,
irritating.
that's
like, come on,
I
lady,
love it.
calm down.
I love it. What do you do? Twitter and Facebook? And,
Oh yeah, I don't know my handles or anything. I don't know how social media works, but it's on the website. So sorry.
Absolutely. Anything else? You seem like you could leave the listeners with a words of wisdom or a piece of advice.
Oh my goodness, for everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Or just a motto or something profound.
profound. No pressure at all.
Yeah.
You are worth saving, and life can be different. Life can always be different.
I love it.
You don't even have to try to be profound. You just are.
Boom.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Well, thank you so much for coming and doing the podcast.
Thank you so much. You guys are wonderful.
I always tell people, let's catch up down the road. So thank
Yes.
you. All right. Many thanks again to Jessie Shepard for coming on the podcast and sharing her story. All the links to get in touch with her are going to be on the website at iamsaltlake.com/298 for episode 298. Go reach out to her. Let her know that you heard her on the podcast. Go check out her podcast.
Yeah.
And,
her podcast is fun.
Check out the last episode of our show. We had her co-host on the podcast, Jackson Carter. So if you missed that one, you can go back to our website.
Those two are a dynamic duo.
Oh my God. I hope they go far with that podcast.
I
I
do
always
too.
see podcasts pop up here in Salt Lake City. And in general, really
Oh,
good
yeah.
shows. They go for, handful of episodes and then they fade away.
It's just hard. It's hard to keep a podcast up.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
5 years of doing this show week
I
after
don't know how
week.
you've done it.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing. I'm actually helping a lot of podcasters out.
Yeah.
Helping them with their work, picking up some freelance work.
Yeah.
Editing podcast episodes, helping book guests. If you need some guests on your show, I can help you out with that. Or if you need your podcast episode edited, reach out to me as well. You can send me an email or reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter. I would love to help you out there. Hey, we totally missed. I screwed this up, Chrissy. last Sunday was the first Sunday of the month when we usually like to give some love to our Patreon supporters. We like to mention the calendar from Nikki and John. I screwed up.
We'll just call this the first Sunday of the month.
Well, so yeah, let's, every month, Nikki and John gave us a beautiful 2017 calendar from New Zealand when they were out here visiting. And we like to kind of describe the picture and then let Nikki kind of give us the interpretation of it.
Fix us.
Anyway, there is, it's kind of bizarre because there's like a tractor next to the ocean and is
that a surfboard?
Some surfboards. I'm not sure why the tractor is down by the sea.
And then there's like apple trees. It really doesn't.
Very, very bizarre picture,
Colorful, though.
You know what I should do? I'm going to actually take a picture of this and post it in the I Am Salt Lake community, our Facebook group.
That way they don't just have to use their imagination.
Yeah, that way they don't have to just use their imagination and check it out. I don't know. I have no idea what it's like over there in New Zealand.
It looks like a nice day.
Beautiful day probably over in New Zealand. One of these days we'll get over there, Chrissy.
Oh, man, yes, please.
Check out New Zealand. Anyway, first of the month, we like to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. We have some amazing supporters because, doing a podcast, like I said, it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of money. And our Patreon supporters are helping keep the lights on and helping keep the show move forward.
And we appreciate how much you guys appreciate our work.
Oh, absolutely. So let's run down the list here really quick. We have a handful of supporters. I want to mention, many thanks to John Miller, Ryan Prince, Zach Shutt, Brandon Hill from Mountain Standard Time Marketing, Brandy Burnham, Will Dugdale, Jake Aaron Gerlach, Jared Aguilar, Brittany Hemingway, Jeff Hadfield, Phil Cooper, Michael Beck, Eric Tomorrow, Nicole Davison, Max Allen, Jeff Hatt, Kevin Lindstrom, John and Nikki from over in New Zealand, Three Irons SLC, and Scott Nompf, Alex Santee, Alan Martindale, Sana, Zell Lee, Christopher Heiser, he's a new Patreon supporter, and Jay Chambers. What a great group of people.
Yeah. They're not just, great supporters, they're great friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter, even for little as $1 a month to help keep our lights on, help keep the show moving forward, go to patreon.com/IamSaltLake and you can get on over there and check it out. We got some great rewards. We're going to be actually redoing some of the rewards where you can get like a bonus RSS feed with some bonus content.
And $5 Patreons get a spot on our website thanking them.
Yeah, so check that out. Absolutely. Your website on there as well. We're still in need of some websites added to that. So go check that out. Patreon.com/IamSaltLake. We'll have the links on the show notes for this episode. But I want to give some big love to our sponsor, Jed's Barbershop. You've heard me mention them. You've heard me praise them. Jed's Barbershop, they have 3 locations here in Salt Lake City, so you have no reason to not go get a haircut. I know I've been slacking in the haircut department. Well, the baby came along.
Yeah, babies will do that.
So I need to go actually get a haircut this week.
But you don't even need to make an appointment.
Oh, speaking of babies, she joined us on this episode as well. You can go get a haircut there, a beard trim, even a straight razor shave. Jed's Barbershop is open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 7, Sunday, 12 to 5. Their newest 3rd location, it's located right downtown at 167 East, 900 South, right next to Randy's Records. They also have a location at 212 South, 700 East. And they also have a location in Sugar House, 2153 East, 2100 South. Beautiful thing, no appointments necessary. You can just show up, go grab yourself a haircut. Head on over to jedsbarbershop.com for more information. Hey, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, please join our Facebook group, IamSaltLake.com/group. It'll forward you right over to Facebook and where you can request to join the group. We're talking all things I Am Salt Lake podcast there and all things awesome in Salt Lake City.
Yes.
So tell us what you love about Salt Lake City when you join up. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast in iTunes. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think of the show. It's a great way for us to hear from our listeners. You have a great week. Get out and enjoy the city. Support local. Go visit one of the last downtown farmers market. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Good night, Grammy.